Good morning. Welcome back to the show. I'm Chris McCarthy. Thanks for joining me. We have our guest in studio this morning. Normally we have him on the phone from Washington, but we were able to get him as he was passing through on his way to an event in New Bedford from the Cape. Congressman Bill Keating. Good morning, Congressman. How are you, sir? It's
great to be here on this is an interesting weather pattern we're in, because the one thing to do if you're planning your life right now, the last few days, don't look at the weather reports.
No.
Because I went to the Pops concert, by the sea this weekend. There was a forecast 80-90% chance of torrential downpours. It didn't happen.
Right.
And then you can go other places, and you could be a mile away right now,
right,
and find yourself in a shower. So that's what we live in. But it is great to get up in the morning and to be able to see the sun come out in the morning. I'll tell you, anything's better than the weather in Washington.
I was going to say, this is a nice break, right? People up here are complaining about humidity. They have no idea.
Yeah. This, there's a reason that it was built on a swamp. So.
Right. Well, let's not go down that road this morning. So, Congressman, we have a couple of things here on the plate we want to talk about. Talk about what's going on with healthcare on the national level from your perspective.
I think, you and I talk a lot about international issues and how they affect, which is important because that's not covered a lot locally. But the one thing, if I had to take one issue that's staring us in the face in the country, on national security, on our economy, it's healthcare. And we are really in a situation where people are going to begin to feel the effects of some recent decisions. But they're not going to feel it till after the elections. Some of the things were postponed. When we extend government, just like for a period of 3 weeks or 4 weeks when we're doing that, tucked into one of those was the mandatory $25 billion cut from Medicare to help pay for that tax bill. I call it a tax bill. And they put in language that said, oh, well, that won't happen until after the election.
So explain. So oftentimes people are driving in the car and they hear half of what was just said. Repeat that again. What happened?
Well, a good example of why they won't feel the effects of some of these healthcare decisions until after the election. They actually put language in tucked into extending government for 3 more weeks of funding that said, that $25 billion cuts in Medicare, we're going to postpone till after the elections, the effect of that. Now, every day we're going to pay, Medicare is attacked and being dismantled, frankly. Medicaid is being cut to $1.5 trillion. And these are numbers. So I think what I'm better off conveying to people is if you've enjoyed, which so many people have, the access and the availability of community health centers like Greater New Bedford Community Health Center, 50% of that comes from people coming in Medicaid or the Children's Insurance Program, CHIPS.
Okay.
And the cost of delivering that service is 24% less than other kinds of delivery. So we actually have something that's treating people with access and timeliness. It's costing 24% less, and their success story. Well, what's going to happen with the cuts in $1.5 trillion in Medicaid cuts, their existence is being threatened. If you talk to the people that run that community health center, they're going to say, I think we face going out of business. It's that drastic. And there aren't many ways we're keeping the cost of healthcare down and making it more accessible. Those are one. So that's an example. The 2/3 of the people that are in nursing homes are paid for it with Medicaid. So what are you going to do when that's cut? Where are we? Social Security is being cut. Now, people think there aren't solutions to these issues. There really are solutions. Social Security, there's a bill in that I'm an original co-sponsor of, and for the cost of less than a cup of coffee a month, we can push that into the next century to make sure that's paid for. But we can do more than that. We can include cost of livings as part of that. And we can take some of the archaic barriers, because a lot of people in my district, they're on Social Security. They want to do a little side work or something to, keep themselves active, and it's interesting, as well as have a little more spending money to get by. We still have that $25,000 limitation on what you can earn. And we have businesses in our whole area that need workers. And so these are, smart, intelligent, accomplished people that would say, maybe I want to do a little bit of part-time work, but I can't do it, or I'm going to get penalized and have to pay taxes on my Social Security. So that's part of it, you know, raising that to 50,000. Common sense things that will help people. So, and all of those things were vetted by the auditors at Social Security. So that here's a case where we're being told, oh, this problem can't be addressed. It's too big. And it's not. So there are solutions out there.
It's math, right?
It's math. And it'll enhance people's lives. People will be surprised to know, I think, in the whole country, that the number one source of retirement for 90% of the American people is Social Security. And they'd be surprised, I think, because a lot of people don't make a lot of money on Social Security, but it still remains the number one. And so we should be able to have security. Should mean security. There are people that want to, and it was part of the different proposals in the place I work, in the House, where they want to privatize that so people can take that money out and invest it. Well, that's not security. And if people take that risk and they're not successful, then they're going to need different kinds of public assistance, and everyone else pays for it. So, I mean, this is something that we should really face up and address. It's harder when it comes to Medicare and other issues, but we can deal with these issues. The Affordable Care Act and extending that pool, we had the lowest growth in health insurance in over half a century when that was being implemented. And there are people like the Kaiser Health people that are showing what it's going to, what could be really contained and saved. Now, what's happening next year when people start to get their private health insurance premiums, they're going to find out another surprise. Besides the fact that Medicare costs, Medicaid costs are affected, they're going to find out that they're going to have a tremendous increase, forecast right now at above 15% on average on their health care costs. And most of that comes to fund the tax bill. So this is the kind of shell game that goes on. We're talking, and people shouldn't get confused. There's no free lunch. So when you take $2.4 trillion that has to be paid back to deal with this tax bill not cut, that has to come from somewhere. And we're paying for it. And part of what was in that bill, tucked into it, were provisions to cripple the Affordable Care Act. So there's going to be 13 million people that have insurance that are going to lose it, being forecast by this. Already in the last year and a few months, there have been 4 million people. And there's going to be another 2 million people getting junk insurance that's being forecast by, nonpartisan analysis because of something that's in the Farm Bill dealing with insurance.
And we're speaking with Congressman Bill Keating. That's what drives me crazy is there wasn't some standalone healthcare bill where everyone got to debate it and talk about it. You're just talking about stuff being tucked into bills.
Yes, and that's what we're looking at. And what does that mean when I say junk insurance? It speaks for itself, but it means this. It means they can put insurance policies back on the market, which they can't now, that are very deceptive. Insurance policies that don't cover pre-existing conditions. Policies, and some of them that are out there already being advanced because of an executive order and the support for this too, that don't cover maternity costs. Zero. That don't cover.
I saw that pregnancy was a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
I saw that in one of the, I thought, oh my God.
I'm glad my mother and father didn't think so. But the other thing is prescription drug costs. Some of these policies have no prescription drug costs. Some of them have such high deductibles that it's outrageous. And some of them have a cap. Now, a cap doesn't sound like a bad thing, but you know what it is on your insurance policy? It means, for instance, they'll insure you, but when you put in claims for $3,000 in a year, you don't have any more insurance payments the rest of that year.
Right. We don't have a lot of time with you, Congress. I know you have another appointment to get to. I just want to talk about, because we always do something that's not in the news. The Russian sanctions. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the House and the Senate and Congress have been strong on those sanctions, and we finally put the existing ones forward. They were delayed by the administration for what reason I don't know, but a Republican who's the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Ed Royce from California, he really deserves a lot of credit pushing the administration forward. When they didn't act on these latest sanctions, he, as a Republican, came forward and said, this is the will of Congress. This is the will of the American people. This should be honored. So we're having some bipartisan support on that issue. We're under attack. And what people might have missed in the papers, we're being attacked right now. They're finding out that right now they are trying to get in the voting apparatus in some of our states. In 2016, they were in at least 21 different states' voting apparatus. In the and they were trying a corporation that puts the equipment together for these voting machines. Right. The Russians were trying to get in there too. So this is serious.
It's really serious. We've got to, we have a good system here in Massachusetts because we have a paper ballot. It seems to me crazy that no one would just go, oh, we'll just have a paper ballot. If I buy a pack of gum, I get a receipt for it. Why would you not have a paper record? It makes absolutely no sense.
When I was at Homeland Security, and we were talking about this issue because it falls under Homeland Security, and the officials were there from Homeland Security, I said, in this election, until we get all these things straightened out, there's no excuse in the country in federal elections where you should not have paper ballots.
Right. We're speaking with Congressman Bill Keating here. He doesn't have much time left with us because he's got to head over to New Bedford. But as we know, he's done a lot of work on the fishing industry, and this has been an ongoing piece of this. And one of the big parts of it is this monitoring program, putting the people on the boat and having the fishermen pay for them. And it appears to me and to our news department that we've got some breaking news on that because of the work in Congress to appropriate more funds. It looks like the monitoring cost is going to be covered because of the work in Congress. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
This has been a strong issue for me, and really the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth and SMAS have done amazing work on this. Really, what you're seeing that's leading the country emanated right from our area, and we should be proud of that. So with the groundfish industry, the fishing small businesses there in particular, they are burdened with $800 to $900 cost to pay for these monitors. First of all, they don't want them on these ships. It's not a safe place. It's the most dangerous occupation that they categorize. Number one, and they get in the way, and it causes a lot of bad feeling. It's not a great situation. But we have technology now because of this, and so now. The at-sea monitoring is going to be, they're forced. I put an amendment in the Magnuson-Stevens bill that passed the House to require that NOAA begins to implement video monitoring because it's better, it's more effective, and it saves money. Then that money was being paid by the fishermen. Right.
And it looks like you folks have been able to appropriate the money so that NOAA is going to cover the cost of it in full.
Yes.
Great job. So, Congressman, I'm going to let you get out of here because you have to get to the next meeting. You'll be in New Bedford.
I will be.
Head to New Bedford.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Congressman, for coming in. Stick around here on 1420 WBSM. We'll be right back.